There is a man. His name is spoken through brake-clean mist, from body shops to tire shops to welding shops to tuner shops. Media producers have reached out, circled back, and touched base. All have failed. Affiliates offer money, chrome-plated parts, and free trials. Only the virtuous get his attention. Roadkill knows who he is, but will not speak his name. eBay resellers close their accounts at the mention of his name. Flexing boys look at their shoes when this bespectacled nerd draws near. He cannot be bought or coerced. His interest is ungageable. His phone is in a perpetual state of blowing up and imploding like a quasar. He is the reason Ford Fairmonts are overpriced. His name is Matt Happel, and he will not tune your car.
This is a website. Never miss another hurdle-burgle. Well, you... Submit your car here, right here. Submit, how do I get on RCR? Submit, you click this button, there's a form, fill out. The bag is also a hat.
The bag's not a hat.
Thank you for website.
Matt Happel will not tune your car. He made 1,037 wheel horsepower in a Chevy Colorado with a junkyard 6-liter LS. But Matt Happel will not tune your car. He builds dirty rat rods that reliably make more power than Hellcats. But Matt Happel will not tune your car. He went 8 seconds for $8,000, but Matt Happel will not tune your car. He's proven you don't need big money for big power, but Matt Happel will not tune your car. He's not interested. All he wants is to have fun. Happel is Yoda. If Yoda told Luke to get back in his S-13 and go pound hyperspace. But Happel's refusal to seek fame is only growing his legend. Still, he won't tune your car. Unless he feels like it. And if you are fortunate enough to gain an audience with this polymath, listen and decenter yourself, because his knowledge will reveal more than a bucket of truth. This is one of his trolling creations, a 2006 Infiniti G35 with a lot of modifications. This Infiniti G35 coupe has a 2008 GM Sierra van 4.8-liter V8, essentially kicking the original VQ35 V6 stock engine down the road like an old beer can. The stock 6-speed manual transmission, or the CD009, better known simply as the CD09, is still here in all its brutish glory. Holding on to these LS power loads like a guy trying to take all the trash out in a single trip. This car is here to relieve you of your foolish devotion to modesty. Old Rust Belt Randy could never. And the Johnny Hill Starts and David Throttlebodies of the world can only look on as Matt Happel fertilizes the landscape of overbuilds with cars like this. This old battle axe of Infiniti G35 is currently making a naturally aspirated 360 horsepower at the tire. But formerly, it had a blower on it that was making 600 horsepower at the tire. And then it was making 680 horsepower on the bottle. For reference, a Hellcat will make about 640 horsepower at the tire on the dyno. Torque rating used to be 476 pound-feet of torque at 1,600 RPM. all the while pumping E85 at the rate of about 70% alcohol. Although this has a continuity filter that will read water as 100% alcohol, because technology is technology. Mods include a Satan's grocery list, and this video would be 20 minutes long if I listed everything. Not because any of these things are inherently ridiculous by themselves, but because their total cost adds up to an extra $21,000 to the price of this build. So the major stuff is you get Cook's long tube headers for the exhaust, a whole Ron Davis aluminum radiator system, a nitrous outlet nitrous system, an MSD atomic intake, Clutch Masters FX 1000 twin disc clutch valued at $2,650. A complete Holley Terminator X standalone engine management system, a Holley brushless fuel pump, a flex fuel sensor, a Holley digital 7-inch dash, stage 2 cam, and a bunch of other stuff we aren't getting into. When it comes to complete overhauls like this, it all starts to blend together into a droning textual curtain like a sermon at Sunday service. And it makes no difference anyway, since Matt is demodding this car in order to sell it, because it's way too expensive right now. No one is paying for a 2006 G35 Coupe $21,000 over traditional value. He just can't find a buyer. Like a bodybuilder in a perpetual state of competition mode, this car is overbuilt as And it's fitting that Happel used a G35 as a platform because, first, it's a rear-wheel drive platform that you don't notice G35s, but now you're going to see them everywhere. The G35 or G37 is the Tropicana version of a Nissan 350Z's Donald Duck orange juice. Infiniti G35. For a man with no capacity for admiration unless he's the subject in some way. His favorite book is no books. His favorite dating app is telling the receptionist about a sex dream he had last night. His favorite Guns N' Roses song is You Give Love a Bad Name. He is the answer in every job interview when asked why you left your previous job. Infiniti G35. I went to business school. I majored in golf. Everybody buys G35s and then just goes nuts on the VQ engine and then just blows it up. Because what this sloppy build does is subvert expectations. When you see a G35, you think you know exactly who's driving it. But more importantly, you know that they don't care what you think about them. Why should they? They have a private practice and their own parking spot at that practice. I suppose this applies to people who bought G35s new, and they get it and they park away from all the other people who come to get their teeth cleaned. It's the domain of the brilliantly untroubled. G35 drivers could not possibly care less about what people think because the happiest people in the world are the ones with no shame. Which is not the same thing as saying a person should be ashamed of their choices, but rather that they're immune to others deciding how they should feel about those choices. You cannot heckle them. You cannot cancel them. Some wear shame like a Kevlar vest to protect their sense of goodness, but really it's more like a high-visibility construction vest. You will be seen and acknowledged, but the vest offers no protection whatsoever. Shamelessness, on the other hand, shamelessness is the loadout from your final boss fight that carries over into New Game Plus. It's an empowering sense of carelessness that breaks through the surface like a peaceful morning is broken by the paperboy's lousy throwing arm. This sloppy G35, this car pierces the veil of automotive subtlety. God, a life without anxiety and self-doubt must be amazing. When you drive this sloppy G35, no one behind a point-of-sale machine is going to ask if you want to round up your total for children in need. This is a build from the school of automotive modding that mirrors traditional attitudes of stand-up comedy. Either everything is fair game or nothing is. Because when you see a G35, like slightly modded, you have an idea that it's going to be driven by some teenager. The car is going to make no power. It's all show. Someone who's dreamed they were going to be Drift King or something like that. And then V8 sounds start coming out of it. I mean, when I see an original G35, I think it's the official car of a person faking an important call so the drive-thru attendant doesn't think you're just an average Taco Bell consumer. No, I'm not from here. I'm just passing through from Decision Finance Airport Haven City. I'm not from Tremont. Clearly, my Infiniti G35, look at it. It's got an analog clock. But then there's the other side of the G35 that I mentioned earlier. The tuners. Infiniti G35s are becoming more popular in tuning now because everybody's priced out of S13s and Fox bodies. G35s are usually owned by people who pry the badging off and replace it with Skyline badging. They slam it, they bend the wheels out, and then they bend the wheels on every pothole on Cedar Crest Boulevard. They cover the cars in enough stickers that, when combined, say, "Put your fingers in me." They blow all their DoorDash profits on bolt-on parts so the stock Nissan V6 liberates its rods ahead of schedule. Because the VQ35 had oiling issues and they just spin rod bearings. But I understand why. Someone will make poor, impulsive financial and mechanical decisions with a G35. And by that I mean still hanging on to that VQ engine. Come with me on this line of thought. When you're young, you don't own anything. You live in your parents' house, you eat your parents' food, you dress yourself with your parents' dollars. You ride to school either in your parents' car or in a school bus driven by an equal authoritarian. Teachers, principals, the district office, you're at the bottom of an ugly totem pole with no say. But then you can buy a car, and you've learned how to drive stick, and all you want is rear-wheel drive. So you can demonstrate at every light your significance. You want authority and agency, and somehow you believe that going sideways will give you that. And since most other cars are all priced out, what you're left with is the G35. Even though it's an Infiniti badge, and it's supposed to be higher tier, somehow they're cheaper than the equivalent 350Z. So you throw all your personality into the car. Like a 17-year-old boy getting his ears pierced, suddenly that's his entire zone. And I get it. On days when I could borrow the family van to drive to marching band practice, I felt amazing. And on days when I had to ride the bus, I felt like a nobody. So you get all your bolt-on mods because your G35 has to be better than everybody else's G35. And then suddenly, this beat-up, scratched, old-looking, neglected, kind of stock-looking other G35 with clearly an eBay exhaust comes rattling up and then does this.
And we weren't rolling.
No, we were.
Oh, we were?
Yeah.
Awesome. Jesus!
God, and I smell it. And he's gone.
And God help you if you actually drive it and try to know what you're doing. A twin disc clutch isn't necessary for everyday driving. Excuse me, a twin disc unsprung clutch is terrible for everyday driving.
Okay, now there's people watching. Don't be a dick, Brian. But then in order to pull out and not look like a doofus, I'm gonna have to spin it.
They're like, you can't drive, and then they're like, that guy's a dick. Like, there's
Yeah, you can't drive and that guy's a dick.
It's tough. Remember when it stalled 75 times the other day for me?
Yeah.
And I know how to drive it. Its manners are much better now.
Just for the Subaru shop back there.
Just like a cush drive in a motorcycle, Your average clutch in everybody's car has little springs around the center to give a little bit of wiggle room to help smooth out the transition from friction zone to no friction zone. But this is power immediately.
I'm on an uphill. I'm on a hill start, and this feels like me learning to drive stick for the first time. Because I either burn out, as Matt says, I either burn out and look like an asshole, or I look like I can't drive and there's a pickup truck behind me. So I can't screw this up. So we're gonna,
Just like I said, just drag the shit out of it, or give him room and
all right.
half drag bomb.
Here we go.
See? Wasn't bad. You just had to chirp him off a little bit.
All right. Excellent.
See how that gear goes to 110.
Amazing.
So it feels like, to me it feels like dog shit now.
Oh, now I can smell the candy corn.
Yeah, when it's that full.
Yeah.
Matt Happel took a car that originally existed as fatherhood's attempt at reclaiming autonomy, and he transformed it into something that farts thunder and screams, "Oh, now you want to be my dad?" It's a kind of car that leaves a place where no doors exist and slams the door behind it. A collection of teenage frustrations cultivated over a long adulthood and finally harvested here at the hour of reckoning. To assume the judgment of the populace and their crooked brows, and to leave long 11s wherever it goes. Except this time, he's not giving any opinions of his energy. Matt Happel doesn't care if you're satisfied. He's getting his nut. And this is the conundrum with high-power tuner cars. How do you sell them? Who would want this? I mean, I think he's going to take the twin disc clutch out. Curiously, he told me the 6-speed transmissions in G35s can handle the power from an LS. For all Nissan's foibles, they made this transmission correctly. The rear end, too. The rear end has such high gearing that, it doesn't want 6th gear until about 70 miles an hour. Someone's going to buy this. I don't know who. Someone who has to be in on the joke, I think. But I hope this is the beginning of a series of cars from Matt Happel and horsepower numbers that keep going up.
My flip slip.
Yes, that is exactly what happened.
The clutch is really grabby, so I didn't want to stall it.